Is on vacation, but up early and tweeting. Not about what happened with the Navy right away, but about LeVar Ball and the NFL. In fact, it took him about 3 hours to tweet about the search for survivors after that Navy plane crashed off the coast of Japan. This comes as the president is under fresh scrutiny for his defense of Roy Moore. Let's bring in our guests to discuss. CNN political commentator Ana Navarro, former George W. Bush political director and the chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp. Good to have you both. As I said before, we are thankful for you. The best for Thanksgiving to you and your family. Now, Matt, the president apparently defended Roy Moore, supports him in the race, is considering whether to campaign for him. Do you agree with the move?
I don't know if I agree with your premise. I think the president definitely moved closer towards Judge Moore. He defended the fact that Roy Moore is denying these allegations. He spoke about it when he had been quiet. I think his main focus is to say that the Democrat, if you're a conservative or Republican in Alabama, the alternative is the Democrat, and he's terrible on all the issues Republicans care about. So I think his focus so far is on the shortcomings of the Democrat. He could take that next step, Chris, and go down there. And then if he does, I think it's fair to call that an endorsement.
Anna, can you look at what the president said yesterday and see it as anything but supporting Roy Moore in that race?
Look, I think it's not express support, but it's certainly implicit and implied support, and the difference is very little. I think it's a mistake. We cannot do this as a Republican Party. We've said we are the party of family values, the party of unity, the party of Christian values. And so to tell folks that if your choice is between a pedophile or a Democrat, you should go for the pedophile, it's just a step too far. It is too high a price to pay for one vote. We cannot cede morality and decency and basic right and wrong because of one vote. I think what they're doing is taking a page right out of the Donald Trump campaign, where he told a lot of Christian evangelicals, where he told a lot of people that had trouble, that were disturbed by his actions, look, I'm going to name a Supreme Court justice you're going to like, so hold your nose, look the other way, and vote for me because I'm going to deliver for you. It is too high a price. The Republican Party cannot become the party of pedophiles and sexual assaulters. We just cannot.
But, Matt, hold on. Help me out with something here. He doesn't say anything for 7 days. We know what I don't support Roy Moore looks like. Mitch McConnell, all these other Republicans who are coming out and saying, I don't think he should do it. Rick Santorum saying he should step aside, telling Alabama voters, don't vote for him. He's never going to be in the Senate. That's what I don't support Roy Moore sounds like. Not what the president said yesterday. He kept saying, I think it was almost 24 times, he denies it, he denies it, he denies it. Doug Jones is no good. That means vote for Roy Moore. Why won't you own that?
I won't own that because...
You must own it.
I won't, because if I was in Alabama... Yeah. By the way, the voters in Alabama get to make this choice. Not all of us sitting in Washington, D.C. and New York.
Nah, but that's an excuse for not taking a position. Go ahead.
But who get to make these judgments, and we're trying, many voices are trying to tell the people in Alabama that it's irresponsible to vote for Roy Moore. But in the end, they get to make the call. And it is fair to say, if you're not going to vote for Roy Moore, a lot of Republicans might not vote, for instance. I think what folks are saying is understand what the Democrat stands for, because the Democrat stands for many things that are repugnant. Second of all, these Republicans who have been against Roy Moore, remember, Chris, before all these charges came up, they were against Roy Moore. Roy Moore was incredibly controversial with a lot of D.C. Republicans because he takes hard, right, traditional views on a lot of social issues. So he already had a built-in anti-caucus with Republicans. Mitch McConnell and a lot of other people who were involved in Senate Republican politics spent a lot of money against him in that primary. And the next point, very quickly, is I understand Anna's criticisms of Republicans. But remember, in this whole age, post-Harvey Weinstein, this is not a Republican problem. This is an American problem. And there's many Democrats, as we all know, who are facing these same charges. And as an institution, Congress is going to have to figure out how they handle these against John Conyers, Bob Menendez, Al Franken. There'll be more. I guarantee you there'll be more. They're going to have to figure out as an institution how they handle this.
Well, but I think they are figuring it out. And one of the ways you enable that process is by respecting people when they come out with claims and calling situations for what they are. And Anna, this is the president hearing what these women have said and doing what he did when he was accused, saying the denial's good enough for me. I don't believe the women. That has to be true. I had this guy from Breitbart on last night saying, well, you can have credibility on both sides. Both sides can be credible. No, they can't. If a woman says, when I was 14, the guy touched me in this way, it can't be that she's right and Roy Moore is right. So you got to make a choice here. You got to stand up for what you believe.
I agree with that.
Absolutely.
Totally.
And
But you're endorsing someone not doing that.
I'm not endorsing.
Is not a partisan. You know, this whataboutism that is being done by both Democrats and Republicans is ridiculous, and it's really a bad example. I do not make a difference between Democrats and Republicans. I will say I think that the talking point of including Bob Menendez in this is ridiculous. There were no underage prostitutes. If there had been, they would have been part of the 10-week trial.
We'll know
the man
in the
just
ethics.
went through.
We'll know in the ethics investigation. It's coming, Anna.
And what about that, Matt? You don't
Great.
factor
And
that
listen,
in.
We're going to have an Al Franken ethics investigation. We're going to have.
They're all going to
John
have
Conyers
But you have
ethics
something more.
investigation.
And if Roy Moore wins, we're going to have an ethics investigation on him, too.
But you have something more with
you know.
Moore. You have these Republicans saying, we won't seat him. And I'm not saying that in some tyrannical sense. They're saying we're going to move to expel him. Rick Santorum last night was saying, I don't think the guy's going to serve. Why don't you factor that in, Matt?
I do. Look, I was listening to Cokie Roberts, a longtime Democrat and someone I respect, on the radio on the way in, and I think it would be very rare for, almost unprecedented for Congress to not seat somebody who the voters have duly elected. Now, Congress can make the decision that he doesn't meet the criteria because there's a question as to whether he won the race. But if he wins this race, which I think is going to be very hard for him to do, but if he wins this race, I think they will seat him, Chris, because if they don't seat him, the Democrats and Republicans, there are others they're going to have the same consideration over. I think what they're going to end up doing with all of these senators and congressmen, and as I said, there's many more to come, they're going to have ethics investigations on all of them. And I agree with Anna. If these charges are credible, they ought to get kicked out. And society's going to have to deal with these challenges. Look, I have 5 girls. My oldest is 14.
Do you think the charges are credible?
If somebody called me to try to date my 14-year-old, I'd be unlocking my gun cabinet. I think these charges are serious, and I think we have to deal with that.
Are they credible?
And yet you're unwilling to say that a person that did that with somebody else's 14-year-old daughter should not be in the Senate.
Let's deal with the facts, not any type of extraction. Do you think the women are credible?
I think it sounds very credible. And I think that if I were a voter in Alabama, I would take every moment, every day up into that election and figure out what I was going to do. You have to weigh both sides. But for people who aren't in Alabama, to tell them the morality of what their choice is before them, I think that only helps Roy Moore. I think we're going to have to respect the people of Alabama. It's the way America voting laws are. The people in Alabama are going to make this choice, and I've got to trust them.
All right.
Matt, but remember this. Right now, Rick,
go ahead.
Chris, let me say this. We've got, the U.S. Senate makes laws that affects all Americans. Their salaries are paid by all Americans, by all U.S. taxpayers. Right now, we've got millions and millions that have been paid out in sexual harassment claims and settlements.
John Conyers,
folks against Congress, paid for by all U.S. Americans. And so I would say that the choice is by the people of Alabama, but it affects us all. Therefore, we all have an opportunity. We all have a right to opine on this because
you don't get to vote in Alabama, though, Anna. You don't get to vote. They get to vote.
But voting is not
to live with their choice.
Right. And
we all have to live with
voting is not the only definition of responsibility in this situation. You know that. I get that it's expedient, but it's also a little deceptive. Both of you, thank you very much.
Oh,
it's a little deceptive. It's a little bit.
That's not fair.
It's a little, but I'm giving you a break because of time and it's Thanksgiving.
Anyway.
Be thankful for the pass I just gave you. Take care to both of you.